Hey, welcome to From the Desk of Erica. I'm Erica, where I talk about the things that arrive on my desk, stories that hit my feed. And one of them is about a teacher who is sobbing, like literally bawling his eyes out because his students, who are seniors, high school seniors, they cannot read. He's given them a passage to read. He told them where to find the four words, or he gave them the answers prior, and they still could not find the four missing words. Several things stood out to me during while I was watching that video, especially comments that I saw posted below the video. So I'm going to see if I can play the video here, just a little clip of it, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it because, well, we need to talk about it.
I literally broke down in the middle of class because I'm teaching seniors. These kids are leaving high school and going to college, hopefully, after they finish. We had 2 paragraphs to read, 1 sentence complete to write. I gave them the sentence stems. I basically completed the sentence for them in the model. These are 17 and 18-year-old kids, and they couldn't fill in 4 words. 4 words. I gave them the scenario. We annotated together. I gave them the answers before we even had the problem. And they couldn't do it. I don't know. I simply don't know where the problem is. This is only day 2. And I have seniors who simply cannot.
All right, so yeah, let's get into this. First of all, the fact that this teacher cares so much about his students. I mean, you could see it in his mannerisms, you can tell in his eyes. He really cares about the future of these students because one of the important things to note is that these are seniors. That means these students are around, what, 17, 18 years old. They're about to hit college or go into the workforce or whatever the case may be. These are our future career citizens, and they're having problems reading. So for me, that is a big, big red flag as to the direction that this nation is going. And in fact, we all should be shedding tears because reading is so fundamental. Reading is a huge part of life. It's always been a humongous part of my life. And to know that there are people out there who cannot read, it's very heartbreaking, to be honest. And it's very heartbreaking to him. Now, there are so many articles and reports being put out here, um, such as illiteracy is huge, reading is dead, and all this other stuff. And without getting into each of those articles, because I've read quite a few of them, I would just like to say, yes, it's true. It's very true that illiteracy is a huge problem in the United States. Globally, it's pretty stable, but in the United States, illiteracy is a problem. We have people who cannot comprehend, they cannot read the room either. Uh, so this is definitely a huge problem. But at the same time, you have people who are reading, people who are reading text messages, people who read Reddit posts, people who read blog posts. And then you have social media dedicated to readers. You have BookTube, Bookstagram, Book Talk. You have authors that are making thousands, if not millions of dollars because people are flipping out over their books. They're reading these nice tropey romanticides. So there are people for sure reading. But on the darker side of that, you have people who are not reading. They're posing as readers. I didn't know that this was a thing, but there are people who are actually purchasing used, well worn books. So when they're reading them, people would think that, you know, they're a bookworm because the book looks well worn. Then you have people who are buying multiple editions of books, but it's the same book. So they're just buying it because they can buy it. And people who buy books so that they can decorate their shelves. The act of buying is like a dopamine hit for them. So they're not really reading the books, they're just buying the books. Meanwhile, you have OG book readers like me who, my goal when I borrow a book from the library or when I purchase a book, my goal is to, well, read it. But getting back to the teacher and, his emotions about his students just not being able to read. And that's the worst thing for any educator to face is the fact that these students, they're about to graduate and go out into the real world. And even if someone gives them the answer, they can't even recall. It's an interesting thing. My sister is a teacher as well, and let me tell you, even if the answers were given prior to the quiz or test, I ask her, hey, how are the students doing? And she'll just tell me, girl, even when I give them the answers, even when I try to help them to critically think, it's just really hard. And I, I know part of the reason is because of this society that we're in right now. Everything is just so accessible. Information is so accessible. And now we have good old AI. And as a teacher, you're competing with, TikTok and Instagram, and you're competing with these fast deliverables that's online to these students. You have to kind of teach past sludge that's in their minds. And so it takes extra work. It's stressful. It takes extra creativity. Um, I was a substitute teacher for many years, as well as a teacher's assistant. And 9 times out of 10, as a teacher, you're not going to be teaching. You're spending the majority of class time managing the students, right? And this is very heartbreaking for teachers because say you go to school for education or you went to school and majored in English or math or science, and you're excited to teach these things that you know. You're excited to teach, you know, the next, you know, citizens that will be the next president or the next nurse, doctor, whatever, only to be met with the reality that you're going to be spending the majority of your time in the class getting the class to calm down, preventing fights, that type of thing. It's demoralizing. It's kind of depressing when you think about it. I know maybe I should do a substitute teacher series or something because I have a lot of horror stories to tell you, but I also have good stories to tell you. Very few good stories, but the rest are horror. Okay. Um, but yeah, as a substitute teacher, the majority of my time was spent managing the classroom. And it comes with the territory because, I mean, you're the sub. So the students feel like it's a free day. And honestly, when I was growing up, I believe I was a good student when I was growing up overall. It did feel like a free day when we had the sub come in. But I didn't, go crazy or anything like that. But some students did. They chose it as a time to disrespect the sub. They chose it as a time to not get any work done. And so, again, you're not spending most of your time teaching. Now, this does not happen in every single school or every single classroom, but it is becoming a problem, enough of a problem to talk about. So let's talk about community, who's responsible for the children's education, and some of the comments that I've seen, because we need to get a couple of things straight. We need to understand the pillars of the community. One of the pillars of the community, aside from, certain jobs, the law, um, fire stations, banks, one of the major pillars of the community is the school, okay? The education system. The education system is there to teach, to educate. So when the children go to that building or when they log in online, the expectation is that when they get to that school, they'll be learning. Okay. So when this video came out about the teacher, just being visibly upset about the students not being able to read, there are some people who say, reading starts in the home. We have to blame the parents for this. And there were several people who said this in different comment sections. I'm not going to post the comments here because it was in various places that posted this teacher's video. Um, but many people said, yeah, it's the parents' fault. Then you had some people who said it's the school's fault. What in the world are the schools teaching? Let's go back to what I said. School is a pillar, one of the pillars of society. School is where you go to learn. Yes, parents can reinforce ideas, make sure there's kids do the homework, take your child to the library, take them to the museums. Yes, that's definitely the parents' responsibility. But a lot of parents are not trained to teach students to read. A lot of parents may not know a lot about science. A lot of parents may not know a lot about Algebra 2. You, as the school system, that is your job. You're an educator. The key word is educate, right? So it's not up to the parents completely to educate their kids. When they send their kids to school, their expectation is that there's learning going on. Not the teachers just sitting there and saying, you know what, your mom or your dad need to teach you to read. Goodbye, go head back home. No. In the school, you have textbooks, you have books, you have chalkboards, electronic whiteboards, you have projectors, you have, the books, the materials, the minds of the teachers who can educate your child. Teachers who are trained in the science of reading. And I keep using that as an example because that's my area. That's, my day job. There are people who are trained in the science of reading who can help teach your child to read. Your job as the parent, for sure, is to reinforce that. What do I mean by reinforce that? What that means is that you're not a passive parent. That means the moments that you do get, because I understand that parents work, okay? Your job is to reinforce the idea. And what I mean by that is to reinforce what they learned in school. So when the child brings home the homework, your job is to make sure they are doing the assignments. Okay, parent? Just because I said that the school is there to educate doesn't mean that you're let off the hook, right? Your job is to reinforce what that child just learned in school. And you do that by simply making sure their homework is completed and looking over their homework. You do that by making sure you include reading in your daily activities. So that means reading to your child. It could be a book for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can spare. And then asking your child questions about what you just read to them. It means that, yes, the weekends is for fun and hanging out and resting, but also you can choose once or twice a month to take your child to the museums, or you can use, you know, a couple of days a week to head to the library. You go to the library together with your child, and that can be on the weekends. It doesn't even have to take up your whole weekend. You can go to the library in the morning or the afternoon and spend just a few moments in the library. So there are certain things you can do to reinforce the idea, but I'm not going to sit here and, belittle the parents who are working 2, 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their child's head. I'm not going to belittle them because they don't have the time. And the way that things are going, a lot of parents just don't have the time to be a parent and an employee and a teacher too. So when they send their child to school, their expectation is that, hey, my child is learning. The most I can do is just check and make sure their homework looks good, that they're doing what they're supposed to do, read with my child for a few minutes every night, things like that. That's the most I can do. And, and that's good. That's really good. And I commend you for that. The learning that takes place at home are those students who are being homeschooled. If they're being homeschooled, then yes, it's 100% up to the parent to make sure that they're learning to read and getting the work done, all of that good stuff, because you're being homeschooled. Now, please don't, I know how the internet gets. I know how the internet gets. They take a little sound bite and run with it. I'm not saying that learning does not begin in the home. I've never said that it doesn't begin in the home. For centuries, learning took place at the feet of the parent, okay, or the mentor. So for sure, learning how to be polite, ethics, morality, and yes, even reading, uh, teaching your child how to budget and do their chores, how to share with others, how to care. All of that takes place in the home base. Home is just one part of the community. School is the next part. You want to know how important school is? There have been some schools that I worked in where a teacher has told me that the child didn't have fresh clothes or food to eat. And so the teacher herself, and this was very, very nice of her, the teacher herself would have fresh clothes in her classroom, inside of bins and such, just in case children don't have shoes or fresh clothes that they could bring home and change into, or they can change at the nurse station, right? School supplies, things like that. Um, what's really sad? I just found out the other day that a cafeteria, not a cafeteria monitor, but one of the cafeteria ladies was fired from her job because she was saving food for a child who can't afford food. So I just want us to understand the kind of world that we live in. It's not a world where there's a middle class anymore. The middle class is being phased out. We are quickly in the zone of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, rich versus the poor. There's no middle, and there's no compassion. I know when I was going to church back in the day, when I was going to church, there was this saying, and it's biblical, that the world will wax cold. What does wax cold mean? That means that the world will increase in coldness. Not the earth itself, But when the Bible is talking about world, it's talking about generations. It's talking about people. There are people who are apathetic towards hunger. There are people who are apathetic towards the poor, the homeless, you know, and these people are just one paycheck away from homelessness themselves, or, they could be the rich ones themselves. They just don't have that empathy and sympathy chip in them. It's not in them at all. So when we hear things about people saving food for children and thus getting fired, when you hear people saying it's the parents' fault only or it's the school's fault only why students can't read, when there's a lot of finger pointing, it's the crumbling down of society. And this has been happening for quite some time. But I don't want to stay on here too long, my friends. I just wanted to let you know that if we're going to talk about the students and the reason why they're just unable to think for themselves or they're having problems academically, we can't just point at one source. There are so many reasons why the students are not able to concentrate. Some of them have actual learning disabilities, and then you have some of them who are just not interested in school, or the school is just not pouring more energy and resources into it. And then the other problem could be the parents who are not reinforcing the idea of learning. So it could be either of those issues. It could be more than that. But let me know what you think about that, and I will be back with more videos. I appreciate you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.